Has been watching and listening to this hearing very closely. Also with me is Jim Messina, White House Deputy Chief of Staff under President Obama. He also led the Obama-backed Organizing for Action group, which pushed for gun reform legislation. And Garrett, I'll start with you on the Hill because, again, this hearing happening less than 24 hours after our latest mass shooting, our second mass shooting in 6 days in this country. How is this most recent shooting reshaped today's hearing, or has it?
Well, it certainly added a more emotional and immediate focus to it. But as the chairman of this committee, Dick Durbin, pointed out in his opening remarks, you could plop this hearing down on the calendar almost at random and place it near a mass shooting. He argued that's part of the problem. Take a listen to Durbin just earlier this morning.
I could ask for a moment of silence for the mass shooting in Boulder last night. And after that is completed, I could ask for a moment of silence for the shooting in Atlanta 6 days ago. And after a minute, I could ask for a moment of silence for the 29 mass shootings that occurred this month in the United States. But in addition to a moment of silence, I would like to ask for a moment of action.
And Craig, for as long as I've been covering Congress, that is the challenge, sort of harnessing the anger, the frustration, the sadness that happens in the wake of these shootings and turning it into something, really only in the wake of the Sutherland Springs shooting, in which Congress passed modest changes to the NICS background check system. Did you see kind of A follow B on actually reforming a specific element of gun-related legislation in the aftermath of a specific shooting?
And again, Garrett, while we're having this conversation, the hearing continues. We just saw Senator Chuck Grassley there. Jim Messina, we just heard from that Colorado State Senator Stephen Finberg there a few moments ago, essentially pleading for Congress and or the White House to do something about gun violence in this country. As you know, the last significant law that was passed was back in '94. It's since expired. The House on March 11th approved two bills that expanded background checks, closing some loopholes, most notably that so-called Charleston loophole. How optimistic are you, Jim Messina, that anything would get done in a 50-50 Senate?
Well, look, as Garrett said, this is really a Washington, D.C. problem. Across the country, you have incredible support for some of these pieces of legislation. Background checks have 83% support, a red flag law, which would allow families and police to get guns out of the hands of mentally disturbed people, like 80%, ask for a license before you buy a gun, but over 70%. Only in Washington, do you have any controversy? So the question really is, Can the Republican Party move from their absolute opposition? Across the country, Craig, as you know, right now, the Republican Party is making it harder to vote and easier to get a gun. And that political position is going to be tested in the midterm elections in a way that I think could make it, movable in Washington to at least get some really easy stuff done that is incredibly politically popular across this country.
Senator Dick Durbin there, once again, the chair of this committee. As we watch, there's Senator Leahy, Vermont Senator Leahy. A number of these senators have been talking about gun violence, Jim Messina, for literally decades. I want to read something from the Wall Street Journal editorial. This is actually from March 14th. This is before the mass shooting in Atlanta, before the mass shooting in Colorado as well. Democrats betting that background checks are popular, but the result in practice may be to spur more gun sales. In 2020, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System reported 21 million background checks, which translates to 8.4 million new gun owners. That's a record. It's estimated there are some 400 million firearms in civilian hands in this country, Jim Messina. That's according to the International Small Arms Survey. Simply put, is this a problem that we've created that has become too big to solve?
Well, no, it's not too big to solve because we're American. We can solve anything we want. The question is whether we have to start taking some of these things out of the hands of people who are a danger. And the question is whether we need automatic assault rifles. Even that, which is incredibly politically polarizing, has a percent of almost 60% of Americans. Like, do you need an assault rifle to go hunting? No, you don't. What do you use an assault rifle for? You use it to hurt other people. And so these are the kind of discussions we've had. But, when you talked about, Congress has been talking about this for decades. We last passed a major piece of gun legislation 27 years ago. And since then, we've had nothing but mass shooting after mass shooting. It is time to act. It is time to get something done to start to prevent some of these incredibly senseless pieces of violence.
Jim Messina, the problem is we could talk about this for hours, but we're going to have to leave it there for now. And unfortunately, I'm certain we're going to have another opportunity to talk about it again in the near future. Jim, thank you. Garrett Haake, keep us posted on that hearing, sir, if you will. Thank you as well.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.